and then being like, okay, what did everyone love? Everyone loves. All right, well, we first got the dragons. That was great. The season 1 thing was ending. Okay, everyone loves Amelia Clark when she's naked. Okay, yeah, we'll get that. All right,
Yep.
and oh man, okay, everyone loved it when the Dothraki started following her. So we'll do that, but bigger.
Yeah, but
Oh,
bigger.
that'd be great.
Now we have the budget. We got all the
Yes.
money.
And so it's and in so many ways it's exactly reminiscent of that first event in the first season. And so so my question for you is, do you feel that's like a great sign of the show? Is it another sign of reunion to this great power structure we've seen with Danny before and kind of like an homage to the previous? Or is it sort of like not cheap, but here we go again? What do you think?
I think honestly, it's a little bit of both. I mean, I am the fan where that kind of poetry does work, where you can call back some of the images from the end of season 1, and I'm like, yes, absolutely, that's it. That's all I wanted. Why didn't you just give me this for 4 years? But like in terms of her character, like we know, we know what's going to happen. We know that. Well, man, let me retract that. We never know what's going to happen, but we can guess based on a certain level of expectation. If Danny did not make it to Westeros, I think you failed in telling that character. Now, she could like fail in getting the Iron Throne, but she has to make it there. She's got to like assert her claim in some fashion. So for me, like examining her character, like these beats make sense, and for them to happen in rapid succession, I think that is definitely a kind of the showrunners pivoting a little bit and really taking the criticism of season 5 and Danny's arcs in the past to heart, because I think very easily this could have been a season of Danny in the desert, and it looks like they're done with that before the halfway point. Now, like the images of, Danny with the fire behind her and, the Dothraki army bowing, like I kind of feel like that's how it was supposed to be anyway, but she had to earn it. And, I was trying to think of like the character moment for her that probably happened in season 5 to get her to that point where it would feel not only earned, but deserved for her to, be in that position to lead a vast army. And it's been tough with her because, she's constantly trying to prove herself as a capable leader. And she's not really ruthless, even though at times, conquering Danny does show up, that Targaryen Danny, and, people die, and usually it's by fire.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree, and I'm really looking forward to, I think, the combination of Tyrion's politicking and Danny's quick resolution of this Dothraki conflict really make for some exciting stuff moving forward.
As an avid book reader, I am actually kind of excited that for once, we don't already know what's going to happen. I mean, I know that there's frustration within the fan community, and I share that frustration to an extent that, the rest of the books aren't published, and we're kind of getting into the major beats that will also occur. The path may be different, but like the events are basically the same between the series and then the 2 unpublished novels.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting kind of dynamic. Does it make it more compelling to not know what's going to happen, or are you kind of kicking yourself because you're going to miss out on it being, when you read it, it's going to be the first time you're consuming the story content, these beats that we're talking about.
Right. For me, it's, as a viewer, I mean, it's the first time since, it's the first time I've been surprised since Ned Stark was actually beheaded at the end of season 1. Because, I hadn't read the books, I had heard of them, but I really got into the show, and I love Sean Bean and even Mark Addy, who played Robert, and you just notice, oh my gosh, these are these guys are not afraid to kill off their main characters. This is crazy. And when Ned was killed, like, I didn't think that was going to happen. Like, just like the laws of television. Like, there is no way they're not killing the lead. It's never going to happen. And then they do. And then you're left going, what's going to happen next? And so I kind of feel like that now, because I immediately read the books after that happened. Tore through them. And so I've known what's happened, try to keep my mouth shut at times, as people are catching on, and most people I've talked to still haven't read the books, and that's fine. And I personally, I prefer the show just because I prefer like a live action depiction in fiction. Not that the novels look bad or anything like that. Just a personal preference. I prefer the show to the books.
Yeah, absolutely. Although one thing I did think about while watching tonight's episode that I thought was interesting about a book versus show comparison, and especially as they started to differ, is one thing I really valued as you watch the first couple seasons, where it's really faithful to the books, is that you have these books as like companion pieces almost that flesh out the world of the show. Yeah. And so it almost felt like, knowing the books, you were able to kind of like read between the lines of the show and kind of see the richer world that was there in
Absolutely.
The show's depiction. Yeah. But as they've differed, that kind of feels less true. And in some ways, it's almost made the show feel a little hollow in that and maybe when the books continue to come out, it'll feel more filled in again. But as we know, they've differed, and so that you kind of have these altering paths that don't have that kind of depth behind them that they might have had before that came with reading the novels.
Right.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm still enjoying this season way more than last, and I'm excited to see where it goes. But yeah, it was a thought I had.
Yeah, it's interesting because after years of like speculation and theory crafting about like how the show's going to end and how the books are going to end, and to see some of this actually come true, in a weird way, it's like a fulfilling a fan prophecy, where it's like, okay, maybe we did guess this correctly, maybe we did kind of see the whole picture. And I mean, I think that's just ultimately not predictable storytelling. I think that's good storytelling.
Yeah.
On George R.R. Martin's part and the showrunner's part for the show. I think there's definitely very unique and quality storytelling in action, even when, you can disagree with how the show changes things or condenses things or whatever it is.
And I wasn't trying to say and disagree with their choices. I mean, things have to get done. And I wasn't trying to argue better or worse, but just an observation.
Yeah.
So you said you didn't get a chance to watch the Next Time On, but
I did not.
So it actually looks pretty interesting. We're going to get to see Arya again, who we didn't see this last episode.
Okay.
So it looked like she's be handing a vial of something. So now that she's got her sight back, she's going to take some lives. So that'll be interesting. And then we look, definitively we're going to get a Kingsmoot. So we'll get to see finally some interaction between the Balon children and the Balon siblings. And then finally, one thing that was the most intriguing to me was a sorceress kind of looking lady talking to Tyrion and Varys. And so I didn't recognize her at all, so I'll be curious to see what she has to say.
Interesting.
And she very well could have been of like Westeros birth, because like Melisandre, she looks like she's from Westeros, but we know she's been trained in the East, right?
Okay, yeah.
And then finally, there is Bran's having a vision, and he sees the White Walkers, including the King White Walker.
Oh man!
So some big things are happening. I'm always looking forward to more Bran visions because we still haven't seen what happens after the battle at the tower.
Yeah, well, I mean, lest we forget the supposed true threat in this story is still north of the Wall.
Absolutely.
And while everyone entertains themselves with their political squabbles and disagreements, like winter is coming. That's not just a baseless threat. It's gonna come, and when it does, it's going to hit hard. And I think the expectation is that there are some that are going to be prepared and others that will not be. And go on.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Yeah, if you're not prepared, you will lose.
And maybe that plays into, like we were talking about, the potential of like shambles that the Iron Throne and King's Landing could be in at the end of the season. Like, obviously they're not preparing, but maybe or they would not be prepared at that point. But maybe that's when, then next season Dany swoops in, takes control, and then tries to like hold off.
Yeah,
the White Walkers. Maybe that's how that plays. Maybe Jon and Sansa do conquer Winterfell, or maybe Jon if Sansa's dead.
I mean, yeah, who knows? Or maybe Sansa lives, and then the White Walkers overpower the Wall, and then they descend upon Winterfell. I mean, we don't know. I think the White Walkers are certainly going to be the most powerful army we've seen thus far in the show.
So to end this discussion, we know that fire cannot kill a dragon, right? We know that Dany is presumably immune to fire and heat of all kind, right? But so my question to you, to ruminate on a little bit, if fire can't kill a dragon, can ice?
I suppose it depends. I mean, that's certainly something to think about.
And if we're looking at a potential confrontation between, maybe Dany's dragons and the White Walkers and, the Army of the Dead, like I don't know, like maybe we're going a little too far in speculation.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how a magical fire from a dragon combats the magical ice from a White Walker.
Do the dragons just create those obsidian daggers and arm the surviving remaining armies of Westeros to combat the White Walkers?
I'm not sure, but time
sounds a little too friendly. Sounds a little too for this show. Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, that's it for us today. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed the show. Once again, follow us on Twitter at Joleedo, and follow us on Tumblr at joleedo.tumblr.com, and like us on Facebook. Remember to subscribe to us on iTunes or wherever you're listening. We live and die by your support. I'm Alex Lee, and on behalf of Jason Johnson and the entire Joleedo Podcast Network, thanks again for tuning in. And remember, winter is coming.